Rev up your engines! Okay, today we have a Hyundai Sonata. It's a 2012, and it's owned by the luckiest man on earth because it's still running down the road, and he hasn't put any money in it other than brake jobs and oil changes. He's a very lucky man because this is a 2012 Sonata. The 13s and 14s, the engines all blew up and the metal broke inside the engine, destroyed him. Now, he's normally a Toyota man. Why did he buy this? Because he couldn't resist 19 grand for a brand new car. He's got 110,000 miles on it, and he said it only burns maybe a third or a half a quart between oil changes, which isn't bad at all for something like that. But like I said, he got lucky, and all because of what's under the hood. It's a 2012 four-cylinder GDI. It is not a 2013 or 2014 that had all the engines blowing up. Well, that's one amongst lots of reasons I tell people not to buy Hyundais, because you just can't trust them. I mean, a few weeks ago, a guy brought me one of those giant Hyundai Palisades, right? Loaded with everything. Seats that squeezed you when you went over 65 to hold you in. It was a very luxurious vehicle. And he bought it for 45 grand, right? I think that's a lot, but RDX that the guy brought here, hey, that was 77,000. So, but even with the V6 engine that was in the brand new Hyundai Palisade, I said, you're lucky. He said, what do you mean? I said, because June and July, they had to recall the engines because the engines were blowing up on the V6s. But his was made in October, and they hadn't recalled them yet. Now, the guy was smart. He went out and bought one of those extended warranties for years and 100-something thousand miles. So he didn't have to worry about it. But do you really want to buy a vehicle that you got to think, gee, am I going to use that warranty? Will they fix it right? Because I've seen lots of people have Hyundai engines fixed at the dealership only to break again a year later, or even less sometimes, and they're just told, well, we fixed the warranty, it's under your dollar now, you got to pay to fix the engine. So you don't want a car that's got a crappy engine. Let's just face the facts. At least on this one, this four-cylinder GDI engine did not have a problem. I guess it was before the equipment that they built the engines with didn't break down and leave metal pieces in it that had blew the engines up, right? Strangely enough, he was telling me they did call him in and they did an oil analysis to see if there was metal in the oil where they'd probably have to replace his engine. And it came up negative. Then he did one later himself and it came up negative. So this particular one is a good engine. But do you really want to gamble with something like that when you're buying a car? Now, the owner's laughing here because his wife doesn't like this car. She said it rides crappy. See, and that shows the difference, especially in my generation, he's around my age, is the wife always got the nice car and the husband drove the crappy car, right? And we didn't care. Hey, it got us down the road. I had a Maverick. It was rusted, bounced all over the place, made all kinds of noise, had a thrush muffler on it, but it went from point A to point B and it kept doing it, right? I finally sold it to somebody for $200 ages ago, a Hawaiian guy. And the only reason I sold it to him because I thought it was hilarious. He put a note on my car that was parked on the street because I'd already bought 2 Toyota Corollas set for sale. And he put a note on that said, would like to buy your car. W-O-O-D. So I thought, well, he's going to buy this car, and he did. But then he just turned around and sold it to an Asian guy in Houston. And the Asian guy paid him like $700 for it. And he only paid me $200. Mid-30s on the highway, 29 in town. Hey, I mean, good gas mileage. The only thing he's done is a brake job on the thing and oil changes. You can't really complain about that. Now, interesting enough, this Sonata has a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's not one of those crappy Jatco CVTs. The Jatco CVTs are horrendous piles of junk, right? This is actually not that bad of a transmission. Now, this particular transmission, sometimes as they age, they get a little wonky between high gears, maybe 3, 4, 4, 5 when they're shifting. That's just from internal wear most of the time. If it's really bad, sometimes it's just a sensor. And in that case, we're going to hook my computer up later and look at it. But if it really had a serious problem and the check engine light was on, the transmission code would show there was a problem there, and then you could just replace the sensor. Unlike the CVT transmissions that pretty much when they go, you get rid of the car. because hardly anybody knows how to fix them, and you can't buy new ones. You would only get, in quotes, rebuilt or remanufactured ones that 33% of the time don't work right. And then you take it back and they say, oh, well, no, we did it right. It's the engine. It's not the transmission, right? You want to get something that doesn't break. And in this case, this 6-speed automatic hasn't broken. A little wonky. He said, I'll see what it's like when I road test it and look at the data. But it is not a CVT. If this was a Hyundai CVT, I'd tell people, run away. Don't even think about buying one of those things. You're going to have headache problems. This is an actual Hyundai 6-speed automatic transmission, and they're not bad transmissions considering how cheap the car was in the first place. What are you gonna get for $19,000, you know? I mean, check it out. The seats are still in excellent shape. Fabric holds up over time. These marvelous hubcaps are still there. But let's face the facts. We're standing back here. Hey, they look like fancy alloy wheels. Who cares? Now, unfortunately, these days, the Korean cars aren't that much cheaper. They've all gotten greedy and they all raise their prices to kind of complement each other and make as much profit as they can. Because like I say, that guy brought Hyundai Palisade, he paid 45 grand and they wanted over 50 originally. So they're not as cheap as they used to be. Interesting enough, the quality seems to be going down as the price goes up, like everything else. All right, here we go. We're trying out this new tool, VDiag VD70. Plugged it in and we're gonna do a full scan of this thing. Everybody knows it's a Hyundai. Read the VIN, there's all the information. Okay, automatic scan, here we go. Scanning, I mean, take a look at the car. It doesn't look cheap. It's got a nice setup. Steering wheel, dash, and everything is held up over the years. And like I say, it's a real transmission. It's a 6-speed automatic, and if you want, you can put it in direct shift where you shift it. Here, it doesn't have paddle shifters on it like a fancy one, but let's face it, most people are not buying a Hyundai Sonata to do drag racing. Okay, so here we go. It only has a couple of codes. It's got a code for the electric power steering, and that's CAN timeout. Everything these days is so computerized. The CAN is controller area network. It has to do with computer control of various things. There's 3 different speeds that run on the same copper wire. They often trip goofy codes. Now I'll ask the owner, does it have any steering problems? He said no. You'll often get weird codes like that, so we'll erase that. Now, interestingly enough, he had the clock spring replaced on the steering wheel, and I'll bet you they forgot to reset the computer, so I'm going to reset it, and we'll see if it comes back. So there's a code for variant coding error. Again, that could have easily been when they replaced the clock spring and they didn't set it back, so we will reset it. There's another squirrely one, left headlamp high circuit short to ground. Okay, again, he replaced the left side headlight, but nobody reset the codes. This is the thing about modern cars. You think they're smart, but they're actually dumb. Because if something goes wrong, unless you reset it, it still thinks there's things wrong. So we'll clear that code. It says it's success. We'll go to the ECM and we'll look at live data. Start her up. Starts right up. As you can see, it's got 111,643 miles on it. Battery current is good, amps are good. Air fuel ratio, the correction value is only 0.2%. So it's running at more than 99% efficiency. Pretty good for a car that's got this many miles on it, right? But then again, like I said, he's a lucky man. If he would have bought the next year model, the engine probably would have blown up by now. And this one's still going strong. Now I realize it's an older car, so there's no backup camera on it yet. Now we're going over the giant speed bump here for water to drain into the ocean, and hey, it went over there quite smoothly. And check it out. Okay, it's got all that mileage. It still runs smooth as silk idle, hey. Can't complain about that. Now, this is a average, smallish type car, so we'll see how it rides. Really not bad at all. I give it a B, B plus maybe. And there's still the original struts too. You can't complain about that, right? I mean, these roads are horrible and it handles good. I don't hear any bearing noise. Here we go. We'll floor it, and makes a lot of noise. It does accelerate, and it's an actual transmission. If it was a CVT, it would have just gone instead of shifting gears. You will get a lot more pickup. If this thing had a CVT transmission, it would be a dog. Now, he said sometimes 35, 40, it shifts a little weird. He said often when you're going on a hill, of course it won't do it now, there's no hills here. We're near the ocean. Slow down a little. Downshift's fine. Well, it's not acting up for me, but we're going to try something he advised, which is we're slowing down to 35. We'll give it a little gas. It did not stumble. Now, I see this all the time. When you do get, especially going uphill at a certain speed, you get a little stumble. It just means that that particular gear are a little bit worn. They'll often do that as they age. It had no transmission codes. The transmission data wasn't weird by any stretch of the imagination. So, that's something you live with one of these. Get out, talk about a smooth idle. And it doesn't have auto shut off. See, the engine's still running. So here we go back, and really, it's a smooth riding car. I mean, for 19,000 bucks, 111,000 miles later, hey, he's definitely getting his money's worth out of the car. So what do I think? The owner just asked, should I keep it or sell it? Until he keep the thing. Jeez, it still runs really well. Look, if you get lucky, don't chance it, right? Like they say, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. What if this would have been a year newer? Then the engine would have probably blown up. This was before their machines started breaking down in Alabama, and they didn't build them right? This one was built pretty good. And the way it runs, the gas mileage he gets, sure, his wife doesn't like the way it rides. She's riding around a 2019 4Runner. Well, yeah, you're talking quality made in Japan, right? I mean, but you're also talking about 3 times what this thing costs. So, hey, he's like me. Gets him around, gets him where he's going, gets good gas mileage, still decent looking car. Why not drive it? Just heed my warning about Hyundais, though. You better do a whole bunch of research before you buy one. Was that a crappy year? Was that a crappy month? You gotta really do your work. Most Toyotas, just go buy a Toyota, right? Even though there's a few bad here and there, they're rare, right? But with these things, it's the good ones that are the rare ones. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.